Now, welcome to Well Chef's podcast. I'm your host, Ragnar Fredriksson, and you're listening to World on a Plate. So thank you for staying with us, and thank you to our sponsors, Nestle Professional, to making things possible. Electrolux Food Foundation, appreciate you being with us all these years. And so happy to be on another podcast, still inspired by World Chef Congress that took place in Abu Dhabi just about a couple of weeks ago. Where we talked a lot about, the power of the white jacket and, the power that chefs have to reach and influence a larger audience and a large number of people. And we discussed also, personal branding for chefs and different career paths for chefs. So here we are. I have with me Chef Dennis Littley. His blog, Ask Chef Dennis, is ranked among the top food blogs in the US and even around the world. And so I'm really happy to have Chef Dennis on the show, and we're going to talk about exactly this. So Chef, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ragnar. Thanks for having me on, Chef. I appreciate being on with you today.
Really a great honor. And just for the listeners, so you established back in 2009, so that's like 12 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, AskChefDennis.com gets more than 9 million visitors per year in all countries all over the world, and 1 million social subscribers. So that's quite a lot. So I really appreciate that you're taking the time to be here with us, and I'm sure we have we have a lot of questions for you. Maybe you had a long career in the gastronomy style restaurant as a chef, of course, and so in 2009 I mentioned you thought to yourself, time to go online. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that journey. What
Sure.
What happened in your life that you thought?
Well, as a chef, you tend to beat up your body pretty much. And I worked in restaurants for most of my life. And I made the transition from restaurants to food service, kind of with Sodexo and Compass Group and different, and working in environments that weren't really restaurant, but they were more suited to a better way of life, because I didn't have to work nights, I didn't have to work weekends. So I was feeding executives for a long time. But before I started, I needed my one hand, both my hands had gone. I needed carpal tunnel surgery on both my hands, because everything I'd done during my life besides being a chef was related to things I did with my hands. So they were gone. So after my second surgery on my right hand, they said, you really can't do this anymore. You need to go into management. And a friend my district manager had left, and I called him to see where he went. And he had gone to a school system, a company that ran a bunch of schools. So he said, we have a job for you. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not ready to be put out to pasture. No more exciting things, no more creating. This is in my mind's thinking. I went to the school, and I was all set to tell them no when they said, and you work 165 days a year. And I went, oh, when would you like me to start? So it kind of changed my focus. I was bored to tears. And I finally told the cook that due to budgetary constraints, they were making me go back and cook, because I was going out of my mind sitting in the office, and the food was horrible. So I didn't know what to feed kids. So I started feeding them like adults. And it was, at that point, it was like a made for TV movie where the kids they painted murals of me on the walls. They were stopping in to see me, to tell me, I love you, Dennis. I says, I love you too. Thank you, sweetie. It was an all girls Catholic high school, and they were eating like there was no tomorrow. So about partway 3 years into the thing, hiring temps for events was getting horrible. And I decided to train my own staff. So I created a little bit of a culinary program there to teach the students the basics and how to cook. And that went incredibly well. But on that path, I decided I wanted someplace for the students to go. So I started blogging. Blogging was brand new in 2009. So I jumped on the bandwagon, and, we all had these visions of grandeur at that point, but there's a lot of hard work and a lot of things. So that's how I started blogging. And in fact, I was the first person in this whole big company that I was working for that had a social media presence of any value. And they had to develop a social media policy because of me, because I was getting all this attention. It was crazy. Right. And then all of a sudden, I'm telling other chefs how to do this in the company. They're starting these culinary programs throughout. And that kind of started the ball rolling. But it really I don't know if you remember Google Plus. Google Plus came out back in 2000 and I forget 10 or somewhere 11. Well, that was I had always been late to the game for social media. Social media at that point in my career as a chef wasn't important to me.
Yeah.
I did not realize the potential. It was just a place to keep up with friends, kind of a thing. And then it started to click. And the world was changing. How we do business, how we advertise our business was changing. And social media started to become very important. So as I was doing my blog, I was talking to any other chef I could find that had time for me about how important it was to get online and to start creating these online personalities type things. And again, it's a hard sell with a lot of chefs or cooks because they're so busy. And it's like, oh my God, I don't have time. And I actually went around speaking to some hotel groups and I told them the same thing. I says, buy an iPad, give it to your staff, let them record little bits. And, this is the special tonight. This is the drink special tonight. This is what we're doing in the restaurant. Stop by and say hello to us and pop these little things online. This was before Facebook made it really easy to do live. And it was like, it's a whole new world. And what we were doing to feed people was changing, and how we were getting out to people needed to change too. So that's kind of where the emphasis on social and my blog started, and it just kind of snowballed. And my branding came. I was originally had another name, and someone had written to me and said, because I was always answering questions, because in those days, no one would tell you anything. It was like prying information. It was just like in the old days of a chef, you want my recipe? No, you can't have it. Now they freely give them to you. And I started to develop that philosophy too, is because I know they're not going to make it as good the same way I did. Maybe not as good is the wrong word, but the same way I do.
Right.
So it became important to start sharing these things. And I was answering questions and someone said, you should be Ask Chef Dennis.
Yeah.
Because they kind of knew me as Chef Dennis. It wasn't that I decided to be that. It was just all of a sudden I was Chef Dennis. And I was like, okay, I can live with that. You can call me whatever you want. I've been called a lot worse. So, I became Ask Chef Dennis. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, what a job of branding, because my brand was me. And that made it really, really easy to get out on social and to create a presence.
Right. Wow. So it really happened as just as you wanted to get your message to educate the people around you, and it sort of took off as a snowball. So what was it like after that? You got your branding there. Was it like, to talk about success? Then you're not just talking about like having your best friends following you, but to have a national, global following. That was it a breaking point at some time? Where like wow, it went like exponential.
Yes, the breaking point, like as I mentioned, Google Plus. Well, when I was on Google Plus, I was one of the few creators they had that they considered a chef or a culinary professional that was actually using the platform as they intended.
Right.
Okay. So I was doing all these lives when live video was brand new and no one was doing it. I was doing these Google Hangouts and I was doing cooking shows and cooking classes, and they got excited about that. Okay. Excuse me. And because of that, and because I was doing what they wanted, they reward. And I was also really pushing Google Plus like nobody's business. I was living in the Philadelphia area, and I was a power user for them because I loved it. I just really had found my people. So they rewarded me by putting me on the follow page with Gordon Ramsay, Emeril Lagasse, Martha Stewart, Anthony Bourdain, and here's Chef Dennis. And I'm going, I don't know how the hell this happened, but I took it for all it was worth. So that was the tipping point.
Yeah.
So I began to have a following worldwide.
Yeah. So you need that extra, like I'm thinking of people imagining themselves, like, where do I start? And so you need that sort of notoriety, somebody to give you that notoriety to boost.
Yeah.
I guess you were lucky you were early in the game, or.
Well, that's it. And there's a lot of ways. It's sometimes a little more difficult to accomplish the same thing now because the world is getting saturated.
Mm-hmm.
But with cooking shows, and there's so many amateur chefs, amateur cooks, home cooks, bloggers, that are doing the same thing, and they've got the time, whereas a working chef doesn't really have the time.
That's right.
But the working chef has an advantage over all of these other people. They have authority, they have knowledge, they've really got something. They've got their jacket on and they're in that kitchen cooking. And even if they have one of their people make a quick 30-second, 1-minute blip, their commanding presence is got a lot more behind it than someone in their home kitchen whipping up something, which may be equally as good, but they don't have that authority.
Exactly.
So, you can still, it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to people and tell them, oh yeah, it's going to happen overnight. It's a matter of sometimes then finding a team to help you. Like I had people that would help push the message out on my different social channels and create more of a awareness and presence. Because, you're working 60, 70 hours a week, you just don't have the time. So you have to, again, just like you would have someone cut your vegetables for you, have someone do your social media for you.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, so is this your full-time job today?
Yes. Yeah, it's been my full-time job for 9 years.
For 9 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually it took you like 3-4 years to make this into your full-time job. And would you say what time would you say you started to make a comfortable living or survival or a good living?
Well, the problem was I was trying to do this while I was working full-time.
In the beginning,
yeah. So the first 4 years of it, you really can't count because pictures were horrible for the most part, because I was working. I was going to work at 5 a.m. and I was getting home at 3 or 4, but I didn't have much daylight left to shoot. So it's hard to take pictures without good light. So those first 4 years were kind of almost just beating myself up trying to get somewhere. When we moved to Florida and I retired from that part of work, I had more time to spend. So then I could take more time and learn and refine things. I was living in Florida, so I had beautiful daylight all the time that I could take good pictures with. The most important transition there was learning what Google wanted, because in order to get seen, you must appease the Google gods. And at that point, it was staying attuned to how they wanted to post written, what information they wanted, how to set up the way you line things up in your posts, and that constantly changes. So you need someone to keep you up on that. So about 2 years in to really doing it full time, seriously doing it full time, I started making money. The first year, I didn't make a lot. I think my first income year was like 40 grand, and it was like, that was a lot for me. It was like, wow. I hired an accountant, and he was like, what do? You can make money doing this. Okay. Yeah. The next year it doubled. The next year it doubled. And it just kept going up. But then at that point, it had become a business.
Yeah.
But as you start to make more money and you're having fun, you need to get creative and you need to really stay on top of things. And you need to find ways to get the message out more. So then it becomes like almost like you're trying to bring more people into your restaurant kind of a thing. How do I do this? Do I run a special? Is that the kiss of death, or do I create a new seasonal menu? So it's the same kind of thinking in terms of this. How am I getting people in here? So it's finding new ways to get the message out. And, the business just keeps improving and improving. Pandemic was another tipping point for me,
right? Because
people couldn't go out. So they were looking for ways to cook at home.
Yeah.
So at that point, my business doubled.
Yeah.
It just went through the roof. Now it has dropped off a little bit, about 25% since people are back out again, but I picked up a lot of traffic then. And for the past 6 years, I have been making good living off this in six figures. So it's not hard to do. It's not impossible. I shouldn't say it's not hard to do. It's not impossible to do. It can be challenging, and you need a team.
Yeah. And so, hey, how do you make a living? What is the business model? Who pays? Because you're not sending takeaways anyway. So who is paying you, and how do you make a living?
Okay. The easiest way to make the biggest chunk of what you're going to earn without killing yourself is to have an ad company.
Right.
Okay. And there's a bunch of them out there. I mean, you can do Google ads, and that's like one of the lowest paying ones, but that's a good place to start. At least you're paying for some of your business expenses. But I belong to a company called Mediavine, and they are the most innovative, one of the largest. There's two out there. The other one's AdThrive. But they pay you directly. You don't have to do any work. They place the ads on your blog, on your article, and then they just send you a check once a month without, and they try to find more ways to make you more money.
Right.
So it's a strange company. They're always looking to increase your revenue.
Right. And how do they earn money for you? Is that like advertisement on your blog, other ways as well, product placement, or?
It's advertisement on the blog. So they just, you have a dashboard where your blog is set up information wise, and then you actually get to tailor it to how many ads you want on there. They'll recommend a certain amount, but you have a lot of input every step of the way. Now, I'm one of their premier publishers, so I make more money, and they actually give me someone to help take care of it for me. So I have a personal assistant on the company, kind of a thing. But they place the ads, and what happens is, as you grow, and like if you have more authority and you have something that people are really looking for, the companies that are putting the ads, they're actually bidding for your space,
for your
for space on your audience. So that can, as you get better and you get more in demand, or you have something that people are really wanting, the bids go higher, and you make even more money. So, but that is the biggest chunk. That is probably 75% of my income. I could have more sources, but again, I don't want to work that hard anymore. I'm retired. So the other source of income is companies will hire me to create recipes for them and to promote their products. Sometimes companies hire me just to promote their products because I have a large social network.
That's right. That's right.
So those are the different, but at this stage of the game, I demand a higher payment, and a lot of them don't want to do it. So I just, I'm in a good spot with my Mediavine income, so I can say, okay, that's what it is. I'm sorry. Have a nice day. Yeah. And sometimes they'll come back. Oh, no, we want you. We'll pay you that. And other times, they don't. So it's okay. I don't need to work that hard. It's always been the tenet, even when I was cooking, was work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So,
And that's interesting, actually, because your product is your followers, really. So your advertisers, the ones who pay you, are interested in your followers. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the concept Ask Chef Dennis. So how would you describe your Ask Chef Dennis, and who are your followers?
Well, my followers, I always tell people it's easy when you have a food blog. It's easier because you're looking for people that eat.
Right.
And that pretty much encompasses, that encompasses everybody. I was also doing a travel blog, and I says, I was looking for people that eat and people that would like to travel. So that's pretty much everybody in the world.
Raising my hand.
Yeah. So it's not difficult. So then you have to decide what you're going to do. My niche was, and again, I struggled with it. My niche was creating, I called them restaurant style recipes, because there's this mystique about what we do in the kitchens of restaurants. And of course, some of it is very difficult. Some is very intricate. There's a lot of knowledge that you possess to create certain things away. But push come to shove, if you're creating, a massive amount of dinners, they've got to be quick. They've got to be precise. They've got to be not easy, but relatively simple. That you know what you're doing with it to make it taste really good, but it's got to be something that's not difficult. Yeah. So my first step was, and I tell people, I'm trying to demystify cooking. And one of the phrases I came up with when I was teaching these high school girls, because they were brilliant. They were going to MIT. They were going to, all these prestigious universities. I would say, cooking, it's not rocket science. Okay, we're talking about food here. Okay, so you have to think of it in those terms. And so that's what I try to tell people, says, don't think you can't do it. There's some techniques you need to learn. And I always tell them a lot of it has to do with sourcing, of where they get their ingredients and how they pick their ingredients. because that's what makes the difference between us and them cooking at home, them buying at a supermarket that doesn't have great stuff, So my objective at that point, after I realized that I couldn't do everything, because in the beginning I'm trying to grab traffic from every different type of food, and it was a negative aspect with me, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I loved to do. I was just trying to do it to get people to come.
Yeah.
So once I realized that was the wrong avenue for me, and I started focusing more on restaurant style type recipes, people started to follow me in that niche, because everyone likes to go out to eat, but they can't always afford it. So they're thinking, maybe I can cook some of this stuff at home. So that's really what started to progress for me. That's where the followers, that was the niche I was after. So one thing I didn't mention too, besides the social network, something that's very, very important is starting an email subscriber list.
Right.
And because that's, in truth, besides, like, if you start a blog, the only thing you actually own are your subscribers to your email. Because if you're depending on a social media for traffic, and they change something like Facebook has, it's like, then you're sitting there going, well, how do I reach these people anymore? So that is a very good way to reach them. And then being consistent. And I wasn't consistent until I hired someone to create my emails for me every week. And I found someone that, again, wrote in my voice so she can tell people what I'm doing. And first she was picking out what she would send, and then I'm very controlling. I decided to tell her what I wanted to send every week too. But that helps, again, create, and it's good for restaurants. A lot of them have email lists, so this is something, maybe you start including a recipe in it.
Absolutely.
Or a link to the recipe that's on the blog that you've just created.
Yeah.
So now you're starting to build interest. And then there's places to share that on that, can get you even more interest. And remember, just like we talk about when we serve food, people eat with their eyes first before they actually taste it.
Right.
So that picture that you're going to share is worth more than you can imagine, because you're drawing them in with that picture. And honestly, you can do it with your phone these days. Phones have gotten so good. The other thing you want to have, like if you're in the kitchen, is buy a piece of foam core, this whiteboard. Have you ever seen that? That's
absolutely. Yeah.
And what I do is I cut it, so I make a little box almost out of it, and I use that to bounce light.
Exactly.
So make a few dishes during the day while you still have light, take it out to a table in the dining room, put the foam core, bounce the light off of it, take a nice picture, take a couple pictures, and then, you have something to share.
That's right. It's just a few tips and tricks, and you can get great pictures out of your phone these days. And
yeah.
And I guess things go ahead.
And the big emphasis is on video now, reels, like TikTok. And you can repurpose these, and again, they don't want them long. Today's consumer consumes very small bites, where we were more trained to longer videos. Now they want 30-second, 1 minute. So, and all the social media is going towards that. So you have TikTok, you have reels on Instagram, you have Facebook videos that you can do. Pinterest has started pin ideas. Yeah. So, I mean, they're all going towards this. So one little, again, have somebody take a video of you. Doesn't have to be long, every now and then, and post it, and just you'll be amazed at the traffic you'll start to get from it.
And that was actually a part of my next question is, like, I guess since 2009, a lot have changed, and the media channels that you have now did not exist then. So you still, so you would recommend to play on all channels, is to try to have somebody diffuse the message through all channels? Do you see a trend now where people are like shifting into are they like letting go of Facebook and going into TikTok now, or do you see these trends on your followers?
Absolutely. And again, Facebook, I call it a necessary evil, because it's somewhere you've got to be, but you're not really going to see the return you used to. And the one thing I always stress with people and companies when I do business with them is, like a lot of my fellow bloggers think if they're getting traffic from these social media, and then they change, and then all their traffic disappears. and they're crying the blues. And I'm saying, well, you should never look to social media. If you're looking to drive traffic, it can bring people into your restaurant. Yeah. But if you're looking to drive traffic to a blog, it's advertising. Okay. I always tell people, think of those billboards that we see on highways that we pass every day that advertise a product. Yeah. Those people have no idea who is seeing it or how many times they're being seen, but they still put these billboards up because they're effective. So social media is the same thing. We're putting a message out. We really don't know how many people are seeing it. They'll estimate it, but they don't know for sure. But it sticks in their mind so that next time they do something. So that's what social media. So that helps people remember you. It's a way to stay in front of them, but to drive traffic, not so much. But it's a very necessary thing. But now, like you said, things are changing. So, where I said Facebook is a necessary evil, they bought Instagram. So they're starting to kill Instagram a little bit because that's what Facebook does, but they're also trying to stay competitive with TikTok, because TikTok is like the biggest thing right now.
Right.
And will it be? Probably for a while, because things run in cycles, where Facebook was the biggest thing for a few years. TikTok will be, it took over for, I can never remember the other one that was an instant one, but at least with TikTok, the videos stay. So that helps, because creating content that disappears is never, in my mind, been a good thing. Mm-hmm. So repurposing. Okay. The big key here is repurposing. So if you're taking with a phone, which is up and down, which is the new format everybody wants, you can put that same video on Reels on Instagram, and you can put the same video on Facebook. So, there's a lot you can do with one video. It's just a matter of having someone, after you've taken it, with that knowledge or the skill to send it out for you. Because again, you want to get back to cooking and do your work. It's easy to do too. If you don't have someone to take it for you, I actually just bought a gooseneck that holds the phone, so I can clip it to my countertop and look at it while I'm making videos or something. So I don't need that extra person there. And then the editing is very simple. It's just a matter of clipping the ends off, and they don't have to be picture perfect. Like if we were in a studio and making a video, you want it to be perfect. But people don't want perfect anymore.
It just has to look honest, almost.
Yeah. Because if it looks perfect, they don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
If it looks like, you're real and you're doing it, then they think. I remember I was doing a live video and I dropped something and on the video, and I made a mess, and I left it in, and somebody posted the next day. He goes, Chef Dennis has given us hope. He made a mistake. And if he made a mistake, I have hope.
Hope for all of us.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So, being real and in the moment and showing that you're a regular person, is also goes a long way with creating your identity. Right. And, and even telling them on the video, stop in and say hello. I loved going out and talking to people because I wanted to see if they were happy. And for me as a chef, the most important thing for me was making people happy. That was my drug of choice. That was like, I fed off of that. People were, oh, that was so great. I had this crazy maitre d' one time. He was French, and I'd walk out from real busy afternoon, and he'd go, ladies and gentlemen, the chef. And I would just, oh my God. So, but I would live for those moments. And so social media can give you those moments. Yeah. If you're, if you're happy, people want to see you happy and loving and passionate. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get the immediate reaction from the audience, in a sense.
Yeah. And if they know you're happy and you love what you do, they're more inclined to come see you or follow you. And again, that's how I always try to portray myself on my blog. I love what I do. I am so blessed to have this skill and to be able to share it with people.
Exactly. Now that's wonderful, Chef. Hey, I had another question. Curiosity. So, like, since you started doing the blogging, since you keeping followers and sort of get the reaction. Do you see a trend in what your followers are looking for? I don't know.
Yeah.
Explain me more about that. What do you see?
Yeah. Well, everyone is looking for the newest way to cook things. There's always people like the biggest trend right now is air fryers,
Right.
which is basically a very small convection oven when you get down to it. But since it's compact, it cooks things really, really pretty good. Yeah. Instapot, they love their Instapots, and I cringe sometimes because just because you can cook it it doesn't mean it's a good idea. There's things people are doing with these, but I never try to degrade them or say anything. I'll say, if it works for you, wonderful. But the trends are always to what is the easiest, newest way for me to cook things. Okay. So you have to necessarily be aware of it. You don't necessarily have to share how to do it. Like I might give tips on how to do it that way. This is how I make it. I always tell people I'm old school. I love my Dutch oven. I love sauteing. I love roasting. This is the way it is. It's not really any more difficult, but the new ways are gimmicky and they're flashy. So people jump on them. So you do have to stay on top of the trends. Right. The biggest trend right now is low carb, keto diets. Mm-hmm. So you have to be aware. But again, you can't necessarily deviate what you're doing, but you can give people options. So I will say, this is how I made it. But if you want to make it keto, these are some other things you can do. If you would like to make it, like I love my chicken stock. If you want to make it vegetarian, even some vegetarian dishes, I'll put it in, make it with vegetable stock instead. Just so it's a different option. So people are always looking for variants of what you do. And honestly, sometimes people will write to me and say, I love this recipe, but can you make it gluten-free and dairy-free? And I write back, well, yeah, I can, but it's going to take me a couple of days. And I really don't have that time. I have some friends that are very talented that do that. Here's one of their names. Again, that was when I first started being everything to everybody was what kills you. So you have to find that area that is yours. Yeah. But again, because I'm Ask Chef Dennis, I can't just say, no, I don't do that. I have to be, okay, I have to answer,
at least and explain. And that's a big respect to you. You have your own line of cooking and so you stay to your own identity of cooking, and you don't have to be for everyone. The reason I asked is we just came from a congress where I think everybody who came on stage used the word vegan at some point in the speech. And I don't know if you see the same trends, or is that something that is certain circles, or?
Well, I've seen vegans pretty much since I started blogging. And I have had a couple friends that were really good vegan bloggers. And, I always have a friend or two that eats vegan that I know about. There's some that just won't tell you. But it's not, I don't think it's so much as it's as big of a trend anymore. I think maybe people are just talking about it a little bit more, at least in the United States. Perhaps, the rest of the world is always culinary sense so far ahead of us. And quality and things that they do that we're just so fast paced and rushed, we don't handle. But vegetarian and vegan can be good markets, but again, most of the world are still meat eaters. I think people are turning vegan because they think, besides the impact of killing living animals, as the impact of how it has on the air quality in our environment now because of the gases that all the cows are releasing and everything. But I don't see it on our side as big of a trend. Again, right now, low carb keto is the big thing that I see, and that may stay, it may pass. I don't know, but what never will pass is good quality recipes. People love Italian food. Ethnic, Portuguese food, Spanish food. People love ethnic food. So good quality or just well made, and I always tell people, I love sauces. Sauces are wonderful. But if the protein doesn't stand on its own with a little salt and pepper and maybe olive oil, then the sauce is just hiding a mistake. They can go together very well. But so again, it's the trends and educating the people. Part of it is educating the people and finding the people that you want to follow you, again, because trying to be everything to everybody is never going to work.
Yeah. And maybe that's actually as an answer to my next question was sort of, what is the key success, the key to success as a blogger? And maybe that's what you just said.
Well, for me, it's been passionate. People, like I have a lot of blogging friends, and they actually look for keywords. They look for things that are going to trend well. They look for food items that they're going to have a higher search volume on, and that's how they decide what they're going to cook.
Right.
And I go, what do I want for dinner? That's how I decide what I'm going to cook and what I'm going to share. Now, honestly, I have started to look at the search volumes on some of them, and it doesn't mean I'll stop making them, because I like to eat it. And I know if I like to eat it, there's got to be other people out there that want to eat it too. So that is how I base or what I think my guests will like, make something. Or again, now with the rising cost of food, I'm going to start doing more with chicken, because that again is the less expensive protein.
Yeah.
So trying to offer, like when I was in the restaurant, I would make dishes that had chicken and seafood in them together to keep the costs down, so people could get a little of both and they could afford it. It's trying to think of what appeals, and as you're on the front lines and you're feeding people, what they order.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if your customer's ordering, that's a good chance there's a lot of people in the world that would like to see that too.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And lately I've been having fights with myself about reinventing the wheel, or creating these dishes that I think, that I want to eat, but maybe it's too much for people. It's not that it's too much. They want the simple food too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I take for granted how easy it is to roast meats or to do things, I don't put them on the blog. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I need to get down to earth a little bit more and show them this is how you roast chicken properly, or this is how you do different chicken parts properly. And, and people would be grateful. They enjoy it. And then you get them, and I always say you get them to try, then you get them to try something with a different sauce on it, or to create a different dish that you're making that has more ingredients in it. They trust you now. So if he says this is good, I'm going to try it,
That's really, really good. And so, what are the most common pitfalls have you seen, like bloggers as yourselves come and go and that never reach, I would say, like fail or don't reach their potential? What are the common mistakes?
Well, the biggest mistakes are improperly setting, crazy as it is, improperly setting up your blog. It's not making it Google friendly. It's not following what they're looking for. And out of the box, the blog is not set up. Like if you just start a WordPress blog, there's a lot of little boxes that you don't know to check or to uncheck that makes it more visible or makes it faster. Yeah. If your site is slow, Google won't share it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to make sure you have a server. People flock to companies like Bluehost, and if you have any kind of traffic, they're never going to handle it. Yeah. So, and that can get expensive too. And it's like something you don't think about, like, so you're paying somebody an extra $150 or $250 a month just to host your blog because you've got that much traffic. Yeah. But again, if you're making money, spend money, so the pitfalls are not realizing how to set up your blog. If you don't have the blog set up, you can have the best recipes in the world. No one's ever going to see them.
Maybe back to what you said in the beginning is like, you need to have a team, like in a kitchen, yes. Somebody cutting your vegetables in this case. Well, somebody's taking care of your tech issues that you might
absolutely
not know, be aware of. You do the cooking and let somebody else do the tech and the promotion, the selling and the advertisement.
And that's always the case.
Yeah.
Do what you do well.
Yeah.
And do what you're passionate about. When Pinterest was hot, I hated Pinterest. So I hired someone to do it.
Yeah.
And she, oh my God, the traffic she got me was incredible. There's people out there that love to do everything you don't like to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can hire them to do it. And sometimes it's tricky finding the right person, because people will tell you they can give you the world when they can't get there, they can't do anything. So it's finding the right people.
Yeah, find the right team.
Yeah. So it's trial and error, but farm things out just like you would in any business. It's holding everything into you and trying to do everything yourself is just going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's going to overwhelm you and you're going to burn out. So if you find joy in creating recipes and food, or you find some joy in writing, you should do that. That's where I find my passion. So now I can sell myself more with what I do, and I'm still passionate about it. It's so, and someone else watches the back end of my blog. I have someone who monitors it 24/7. I have an SEO auditor. That was the best money I ever spent. There's a guy that goes through the blog, and I mean, it was like 25 pages of things that I could do to correct it. And, again, not checking the right boxes. He did a lot of it for me while we were doing it live, but then, he gives you homework, a list of stuff. I just got finished another list of homework yesterday, was changing the categories in my blog. And there's things we don't think about, creating new categories so Google can find it easier. And Google knows how. They want to send you traffic. They just want you to set it up so they know how to send it to you. And the more you get seen, and again, it's the biggest thing, is the more traffic you get, because they see authority in you. People trust you. Yeah. So if people are going to your site and they trust you, or going to your recipe and trust you, they're going to let more people see it. So it's kind of like, if no one goes and no one trusts you, they don't feel. Oh, the other big thing is, have a good picture of yourself. If you're going to do any kind of promotion, be proud of, the fact, have your I have jackets on. I always wore white all through my career. When I retired, I ordered a blue one and a wine colored one. And it's just to stand out a little, just to look different. But I mean, let them see you in a professional, and happy,
Exactly, happy, and and your own identity.
Yeah. Yeah. And create that identity. And, and the other thing is, if whatever your branding is, get that name on every social media that there is, even if you're not going to go on it, but get that name so you have it. Yeah. If you're creating a blog, get a name that is easy to remember, doesn't have any hyphens, any underscores, because again, people, the way their minds work, they have to draw. For me, as Chef Dennis, real simple on all social media, as Chef Dennis, doesn't change, and it's just, it makes it easier for people to find you.
Yeah. Great. Chef Dennis, it's been really remarkable listening to you. And I think, you really shared all of your knowledge with our audience. And I really appreciate that. And I have a lot of takeaways personally. So I really enjoyed talking to you, and I can hear, the passion, they have your own identity, and then get the right team together. A lot of that is actually a lot like running a restaurant.
Absolutely. That's where the experience comes in. And it was, I think, when I forgot that, and I realized that that's what it was. It was using your management skills. It basically is what it is, creating a team. The other thing that I had forgotten before the pandemic hit was, I forgot I like to cook. Yeah. I was so, you can get trapped in that social media. So busy with that, we would go out to eat a lot. And when the pandemic hit, I started ordering food online, meats online and different things. And I'm cooking going, I love doing this. I forgot that. Yeah. So, and that was also a boost to my business, because I got back to showing people that I loved it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess people, they realize that, because, you're true and honest, and that's how you attract people to your blog. In the same way, you attract people to your restaurant. And that's my takeaway, actually. It's so similar. You just have to think a little bit out of the box. It's a different channel, different media, but the principles are pretty much the same. The key success factors are probably very much the same, sort of in a different sphere, so to speak.
Yeah. That's all. You apply the same principles. It's, again, you're not creating something new. It's business has worked in a certain way for years because of how, people love doing business with people they like. Yeah. That's what it comes down to too. So the more likable you can be, like my wife says, I became the kinder, gentler Chef Dennis when I went to the girls' school. Says before then I was more of a no soup for you, Chef Dennis.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Chef Dennis. It's been really wonderful. So all our listeners out there, if you have any questions, ask chefdennis.com. Yep. And so great to have you on the show, Chef.
Oh, thank you very much, Chef. I appreciate the time.
You've been listening to Well Chef's podcast. This is World on a Plate, and I'm your host, Ragnar Fredriksson. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to sign up to the podcast. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to worldchefs.org. It's a free account where you have access to all sort of resources, our podcast, webcast, webinars, job offers, so much to offer. And so we hope to see you soon. Thank you for listening again, and stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye, Chef Dennis.
I'll see you later, Chef Ragnar.